Hi, this is Les Levine, the self-proclaimed voice of truth and reason in Ohio sports. Most basketball observers would say the college game made its biggest impact when ESPN made Big East games must-see TV, followed by the classic matchup of Indiana State and Michigan State, otherwise known as the 1979 Larry Bird Magic Johnson championship game. Phil-Bova's refereeing career spanned most of those events. Nationally, people might know him best for the Bob Knight chair throwing game, which took place 35 years ago this weekend, but that's unfair to Phil. While I was doing Kent State and Cleveland State games for almost 30 years, I never saw a referee more in charge of a game than I saw in Phil-Bova. He once told me that if a game had 100 people in the stands or 20,000, he'd go up to each player before the game started and tell them that this game is the most important game in the country played tonight. And his performance never showed anything different. Phil-Bova is here. More Sports and Les Levine is on the air. From the worldwide headquarters of More Sports and Les Levine, it's a Thursday night. Good evening, everyone. Welcome once again to More Sports and Les Levine into our 24th consecutive season and seen exclusively on cleveland.com. The guy next to me, Phil-Bova, who I've known for 50 years, maybe? Not almost, maybe.
Every bit of it.
Every bit of it, playing sandlot ball against each other. We hated you as an opponent.
You were pretty good yourself.
Why? You know why? Because you looked too good. You had the socks exactly right. You had everything hiked up. Those are fun days.
Back at you, though. You were pretty tough yourself.
All right, so let's talk basketball tonight. But before we do that, I want to get into a couple of headlines on the day. Not really great news. Carlos-Carrasco threw to two hitters for the first time on Tuesday. He looked strong, but he experienced some discomfort in his leg during Wednesday's workout. Was seen in the locker room on Thursday morning using a crutch. He had an MRI today on his right leg. Now we turn to football. Jarvis-Landry underwent successful hip surgery on February 4th. That's in Minnesota. He's expected back at some point during training camp, which begins late July. Finished with 83 receptions, 1,174 yards, 6 touchdowns in 2019. So there you have it. That is the news of the day. Phil, is a native Clevelander, you don't get surprised when news comes on a ordinary Thursday afternoon. Carlos-Carrasco, Jarvis-Landry, we're used to it, aren't we?
We sure are in Cleveland, Ohio. You're not sure what's coming around the next time the TV's on.
All right, so Phil, you're celebrating the 35th anniversary of the Bob Knight chair throwing incident, which when's the anniversary? Sunday, I think?
It'll be February 23rd, 1985, so it'll be 35 years on Sunday, right?
1985, all right. So here's the book, Throwing Back the Chair. I know you've been talking about doing a book for a long time. What got you to actually get it done?
Well, this is a 2-year venture. A young man by the name of Nino Frostino, my author, lived in the area. Grew up with my children. Went to the same high school. Great young man and an avid sports fan. So many times throughout the winter seasons and during the basketball season, he'd be over, particularly on a Sunday when I would come home. Right. And then I would start to tell all these stories. So at the end of my career, he says, Mr. Bove, you've got to put this on paper. I says, Dino, I don't want to do this. I don't think anybody would really be interested. I was wrong. He was right, and we spent every Tuesday for the last almost two years, to be honest with you, putting together some great stories and a lot of fun.
It must have jogged your memory, too, stuff you hadn't thought about, and he asked the questions, you came up with the answers, and he said, oh, and that reminds me of this game or this trip. I think it's a fascinating story, and I think it is unfair, as I mentioned in the opening, that many people nationally know you as the guy in the Bob Knight chair throwing, but you're a little more than that on the court.
Well, I was blessed and fortunate to play basketball in high school, Cleveland West High School, and played 1 year at Kent State University as a freshman, and just loved the game. And I was got the opportunity, as explains in the book, to come out of the stands during a Cleveland Browns game, and that's how my basketball career started.
What Phil's saying, that there was a charity game, the Browns against who? The faculty of the school,
faculty
probably?
to raise some money for the children, right?
Yeah. Well, that's great. And what, the referee got hurt or didn't show?
Referee had gotten hurt, and
They
the
said,
guys.
Bova, get in the game.
No, they came in. The other referee came over to the athletic director, and they walked the stands and asked, just to flat out ask, could anybody referee? And I raised my hand. And that's how it all began.
And that was the beginning.
Yes.
So everybody, when you see the games on ESPN or the national games, you see the same. A lot of the same referees become characters also, but there's so much more that goes into it. What people don't know is you would do CYO games for $3, right? Do I have that pricing
You're exactly
correct?
right.
Yeah.
At St. Edward High School.
And you do on a Saturday, you do 5 or 6, 7 games?
I would do 7 games on Saturday morning for $3, and 7 times
Cash?
$21 cash, baby. And then the next day I do 21, and man, I was rocking and rolling at $42.
Right.
And they were yelling at that time, way back at when they were like 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders at the old St. Edward gym. And it was just so much fun.
Yeah.
And I go back there because my grandson plays basketball for St. Edward High School. And when I walk in there and then go back into the wrestling room, which is now the wrestling room,
right.
it brings back great memories.
So you didn't say, I think once my athletic career is over, I think I'll get into refereeing. It kind of fell in your lap.
Yeah, I was really fortunate. I've always tried to keep myself, both of us did, but I was football, basketball, and baseball in high school, and I had a little bout with the professional baseball. And then I had an opportunity to have our baseball school, which you were so kind enough to come out and talk at for. We just concluded our 35th and final year last year. So I just stayed close to that game. But then as an educator, I was an educator for 44 years. And so I needed an extra kind of a job to keep us above float, keep us.
You must have had some understanding people above you as your bosses to allow you all the time off.
They were great, and as I point out into the book, the different communities that supported me, the different families, the Buckeye High Schools, the St. Edward community, that group of people was always very supportive, beginning with the administrators.
Right. So you do some games, you get noticed by somebody. I know Jim Desmond was a guy who was a longtime official, and he's one who got you to the next level. But how was it when you were doing junior high games and high school JV games and all? Were you saying, "I can't wait to the big"? Of course, it wasn't ESPN in those days, so you didn't have anything to aspire to television-wise. Right.
But I was fortunate to have a gentleman that I played baseball for at high school, a gentleman by the name of Jim Delvecchio. And Jim was an outstanding high school and collegiate basketball official in this area, along with Pete Amico. And both those guys kind of really took me under their wing. And I would work freshman, and then I'd work JV, and then I would work freshman, and then I would go watch the varsity. Many times, Mr. Jim Delvecchio work and watch him. I says, I want to be get to that level. So I was fortunate to get to that level, and everything opened up after that.
Any idea how many games you've done in all these years?
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, we're talking 2,000?
Well, I think well over 2,000, to be honest with you. It's just a lot of running up and down the floor, so much so that we've had 2 knee replacements.
Since or no? You didn't lose
over
time.
the last 2 years.
Yeah, you didn't lose time.
No, never lost time.
Never had a cramp. Never had a pulled muscle or anything.
I never had a major injury, and thank goodness. I was
very,
very
you've
pleased.
seen others who did.
Oh yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
You don't stretch today and the run, stop, start. We used to have 2-man games, two referees in a game, and boy, you were really running up and down the floor. Now, of course, with the NBA and all,
right.
The NCAA kind of followed what the NBA did. Now there's 3 referees, and sometimes I watch these games, I think they need 4 referees out there.
Tell me what happens when you, I don't want to say get stuck, but before you got to the big time, if you get paired up with another official who's not at the same level, how do you can't show that on the court. You may have to, I assume you have to wait till halftime in the locker room to make a correction or two?
Well, that's a great question, because I had a referees camp for 24 years, and one of the things we emphasize to the guys is if you go on the floor or you sense that you have probably in pregame you'll be able to tell, and you'll talk about their backgrounds and their experience.
Right.
But you might know prior to even going onto the floor that you may have a less experienced referee. So you do the best you can, call the play out that's in front of you.
Right.
And at halftime, as you mentioned, maybe ask him to step it up a little bit or be a little bit more decisive. And sometimes that works, but the more a guy referees, the more company gets.
Well, if I were you, I would just reach in the pocket and get him another extra pair of glasses that you might have. That would help.
There's many times they wanted to give me glasses out of the stands.
216-575-0403 is the number to call if you want to get in and have a question for Phil Bova. We're going to do a lot of stuff here. We're going to talk about his list of best coaches that he's refereed for, and players also, and anything else that's on your mind. Now's the time to do it. When we get back, we'll talk about Phil Bova's Bobby Knight story. We'll take a look at Bova's best of the best coaches. When we get back, More Sports and Les Levine continues exclusively on cleveland.com. Did you know the Ohio Lottery has paid out over $1 billion in winnings over the last 6 months? People are winning in record numbers. Winning is happening all over the state. Play an Ohio Lottery game and play it today. You can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/more-sports-and-les-levine with new content posted each and every day. A little later, we'll give you our Facebook question of the day with some of your responses right here exclusively on cleveland.com.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art Bet America kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
As a kid growing up, my dream was to go to college, play baseball, and get a degree. Coming out of high school, I had two choices. I was accepted into a four-year university, but I decided to come to Tri-C after receiving a scholarship. I got my associate's degree at Tri-C. They transferred all my credits straight into Baldwin-Wallace, so I started at Baldwin-Wallace University as a junior. My name is Tyler Leonard, and I earned my first degree at Tri-C.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
All right, today's date is the 20th of February. Born on this date, Filler Up, 1947, phony name. Charles Barkley was born today. Stephon Marbury, Justin Verlander, one of the cheaters of Houston. Brian McCann and Luis Severino, who I believe got injured yesterday. Yankees, you hate to see Yankees. Wow. You hope they're okay, but maybe by October. You still have a hatred for the Yankees? Did you have it as a kid?
You know what? I had a great admiration for the Yankees. I just thought it was a class operation. They just year in and year out, Les. They always found a way to get it done.
Yeah, they did. Mostly with money. All right, let's talk. Let's get the Bobby Knight story over with. I don't know you're going to be reunited with him sometime soon, which we can talk about. But tell me how the whole thing came about. You mentioned something to me the other day that I thought was interesting, that even if you can't stand talking about it, you are linked historically with that, and so is he.
Right. It was one of those, it was one of the classics with the, of course, the Big Ten Conference nationally televised game. Indiana-Purdue would be like Ohio State and Michigan in football.
Right.
End of story. And two phenomenal coaches in Bob Knight and Gene Cady, and the place was just packed. And we had a great crew and a great pregame, and part of our pregame, very simply, is to sit down an hour and a half before and talk exactly how we want to take care of this particular.
Before we do that, how's his form on that? Is he using too much of a backswing, or?
He's got good balance right there. I noticed
okay.
that.
So
good follow through.
That's important. All right, go ahead. So
and thank goodness it was plastic, and it stopped where it did.
Yeah. All right. So you had the meeting.
Well, we have our pregame, and we went through a checklist of things. We want to make sure that we communicate. Ball goes out of bounds. We want to look at each other. If a player goes down, these are just some of the things.
Sure.
If a player goes down, how did he get there? Sometimes you'll turn. You better know how we get there, because we didn't have a chance to go back to replays.
Right.
And so we'd have to come together and talk. So The game started, and we thought it was going to be one of those games where the ball was going to go in the basket. And when the ball goes in the basket, as you well know, Les, if you called many, many thousands and thousands of games, it's an easy game to referee.
Yeah, it doesn't happen that way.
But for that particular afternoon at 2:30, Indiana couldn't throw the ball in Lake Erie, as it turned out. Everything they threw up was missed, and then the three referees, they became very noticeable. So we had several calls go against Indiana right in a row. But the play that really got Coach Bob Knight rocking and rolling was a play that happened at half court. Loose ball. Everyone's diving. At the bottom of the pile is Steve Alford, his All-American captain. We all run up. We were both, from my vantage point, it looked like a jump ball, just to me. So, but my partner comes in. He has the fist up. He's pointing somewhere. Who does he point the foul out? On Steve Alford. Well, that was the start of it all, because now Knight wants a jump ball, and he's not going to leave the fact that it was a jump ball. Now he's going back and forth.
And you made the jump ball call?
No, we did. My brother official and I, there were three on the game.
Yeah.
We were about ready to, but my other partner comes in with the foul, so
Right.
that supersedes the jump ball.
Sure.
And so now Knight wants a jump ball, and we put the ball out of bounds. And as we were about to put the ball out of bounds, the other member of my crew hears a vernacular come out of Bob Knight's mouth that's not supposed to be said on TV, or it's said on a basketball floor. So consequently, the technical foul is the first of three. So they're going back and forth, and he says something else to my partner, and now all of a sudden, the chair comes out of the Indiana bench, and I was what they call the trail, and we have a lead underneath the basket. We have another official across the floor, and when the chair came across, it's like, did this really happen? It's like, that's not supposed to happen. So automatically, the three of us had teed them up, but it was one technical foul. So now that's two. Now
It's one because it was one incident.
Right, it was one incident. It was a second technical foul, but we all did it at the same
Right.
time. And in the tape, you could see that. So sure enough, now we're kind of stunned as to what happened here. So now we bring our partners together, and we said, hey, he's leaving. He's got to go. So the athletic director comes out of the stands, as it's pointed out in the book, and he very simply says to me, Mr. Bova, you didn't throw Coach Knight out, did you? I says, absolutely not. His behavior threw him out. He's gone for the day. So consequently, as we're talking to my other official, Knight goes to my third official and says that same vernacular. Now we have 3 technical fouls and 6 shots. Probably about a 15, 16-minute extravaganza, so to speak. And the people start yelling Bobby and Ben, throwing out things out on the floor, and Bob Knight is going back and forth, and he really did not want to leave the game.
Well, he knows the rules pretty well.
Oh, yes, he does. So the next thing we would think, uh-oh, if he doesn't leave, game's over.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what we would have had to do?
Could you go to the PA announcer and have them make that
Well, we
statement?
absolutely, Bob started to walk off the floor.
Oh, okay.
And we all got together, and all we try to do very seriously is to try to get the game back under control, so
Right.
to speak. Administratively, what are we going to do? And there's a young man by the name of Steve Reed, who was a 90% free throw shooter. 90%.
Not on that day.
He shoots 6, he makes 3, and they're clapping and all that
Right.
sort of thing. But it was a unique situation, to say the least. And of course, Purdue went on to beat them pretty handedly.
All right. Now, at that time, you had a basketball camp for referees.
Yes, I did.
So one would think that Bob Knight hates your guts for the rest of your life, or his life, right?
Exactly.
Tell me what happened.
Well, 2 weeks later, I look at the schedule. I goes, uh-oh, we're back in Indiana. So I figured we're gonna catch some things from the fans, and it like it never happened. And we shook hands before the game with both coaches, as we
Why,
usually
did they
do.
have something campus-wide to say, hey, let's be on our best behavior, or it just happened?
I'm not really sure of that. If they did, I didn't know about it. They were
Okay.
It was a real class operation that same day. But here's the best part, and again, it's a classic story, so well done by Nino. I had this referees camp, and sure enough, who do you think comes to the referees camp? the summer of 1985 with 80 people at Baldwin Wallace College. We were there for a whole week. And every year, Les, I'd have what we call a coach's corner to start the program.
Right.
And I said to them, I have a surprise for you people. And sure enough, he walks out. And the first thing he says to me, Phil, yes, Coach, can I throw you a chair? So he just did a wonderful job for us.
I need to take a break, but
Sure.
when I get back, I want to find out how, you'd like to say every game is the same, every player is the game, but he's a force that is there no matter what. He kind of puts himself in that position, and I know you want to call the game, every call has to be proper and the right call, but there's an intimidation factor, I would assume.
No question. No question.
We'll talk about that when we get back.
Yes, you sure will. Good.
216-575-0403. Let's take a quick look at Phil's best of the best. Let's look at coaches really quick, see who he rates. These, of course, are just coaches that you've refereed for. Tommy, just pop in anytime you want here if you see a name that intrigues you. Tommy Amaker, John-Beilein, Dan Dockich, Ray Derringer, who's at Cleveland State, Steve Fisher, Tom-Izzo, Bobby Knight, Thad Mata, Bruce Pearl, Gary Waters, of course, had finished up at Cleveland State. Gail Catlin, Mike Davis, Keith Dambrett did a great job at Akron. Don Donaher of Dayton, Judd Heathcote, Gene Cady, Rolly Massimino finished up his NCAA career at Cleveland State. Lute Olson, Tubby Smith, and Gary Williams. You're talking about the top of the top here.
You know what, Les? If I pick one guy out, I do the other ones injustice. That's a Hall of Fame list.
Yeah.
And class people, and really, as a coach, a former coach and player, and now a referee, I'd have my grandson or grandchildren play for any one of those guys. They demanded the best every day.
A quick note on John-Beilein. You did games of his?
You know what? I've never have.
Never had a Michigan game when he was there?
No, he was a head coach, and we just never connected all throughout my career.
That's interesting. 216-575-0403, Northeast Factory Direct. 3 great locations, plus the website, West 140th Street in Cleveland, Lakeland Boulevard in Euclid, as well as Freeway Drive in Macedonia. And of course, before you go anywhere, go to northeastfactorydirect.com, and you'll find out what you're going to get and how much you're going to save, and it's going to be at least 50%. It's going to be 60, 70%. They save money. They save, their rent is about one-tenth that of the big box stores, and they pass that savings directly on to you. We'll get back with Phil Bova. We'll check out some of the best players that he's refereed for, or not against, for each time. More Sports and Les Levine continues exclusively on cleveland.com.
Celebrate Naturestone's 30-year anniversary with a free Naturestone floor. During 2020, we will be giving away 30 free floors to 30 very lucky customers to say thank you for making Naturestone the best concrete flooring solution for garages, basements, and more. Call or visit naturestone.com today to register to win, and we'll send you a copy of our new buyer's guide absolutely free. There's no purchase necessary. Winners will be chosen monthly. With over 30 million square feet installed for more than 60,000 customers, it's easy to see why I always say, it's not just a floor, wow, it's Naturestone.
Got your Ohio Lottery pick 3, I see.
Yup. Those glasses are hip.
Hip? Most people think I'm a square. But what's wrong with that? A box bet can increase your chances of winning. And what is a box? A square. There are so many ways to play. There's coming out the wazoo. Oh, shucks. Look at me yammering on. Put a lid in it, Picky Ricky. Play the Ohio Lottery Pick 3 today.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's Kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget, Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Time for a How Come Quickie. How come if a 19-foot shot is worth 3 points, a slam dunk or layup should be worth 1? You agree with that, Phil-Bova?
I don't know how you do it, Les. You have to give that some real...
Because I couldn't make three-pointers. It was a layup I had problems with. 216-575-0403. Phil-Bova is here. How many years refereeing total?
44 in the NCAA, 30 in the Big Ten, and 20 consecutive NCAA March Madness.
Got as far as the Elite Eight, right?
Yes, sir. I got there.
Which game was that? Do you remember?
Oh, there was 5 of them. So
5 Elite Eight games?
5 Elite Eight games over that span.
You know what? If you're a basketball fan, maybe you think of the players and coaches and don't think of the referees. But I find it really interesting. Here's Phil's book, Throwing Back the Chair, and it's available on Amazon.com and other places, which we will get to. But it's interesting that I assume that by now, it's February 22nd or 3rd or whatever it is, I would think that the referees would know where they're going to be once the NCAA tournament. For example, I would have thought that by now you would know that on March, you're going to be at Bloomington to do an NCAA game. It doesn't work that way.
Interesting you say that, Les. Again, I refer to the book. It's called Selection Sunday.
Right.
And we take great pride, and I appreciate you mentioning earlier when the show opened, whether there's 200 people or 20,000 people in the stands, you work each game like it's your last one, because it's the most important game for those two teams and those two coaches. So we are evaluated every single game every year, and you must grade to a certain grade or you're not coming back. So if you're having a pretty good year, you can just kind of tell.
Sure.
Each supervisor that you work for is asked to submit X amount of names to the NCAA. And they have a officiating committee that sits down and takes all this data in.
No different than selecting the teams.
Just exactly right, except it's all over the country for the 64 teams. Now, we have a pretty good idea we're going to be selected, but we're not sure where we'll get the call on Sunday night after the 64 teams are selected.
Could be a Thursday, Saturday, could be a Friday, Sunday.
Yes, sir, could be Thursday, exactly. And then, of course, depending upon how you do, there's an observer at each of those ball games. And as the teams win 71-70, we don't know exactly. You get a feel how you did.
Sure.
But it's subjectively, and then hopefully you move on to the next round.
And I'm assuming you're rooting for good games as opposed to blowouts, obviously.
I want a one-pointer. I want a two-pointer. We want a bang-bang game. When you get a 21, 28-point game, it's not very good.
Not good for anybody. All right, let's take a look at the all-Bova third team as far as players are concerned. Here you got Brad. Look at this. You got to start with an M here, except for Brad Sellers, the mayor, Kevin-mchale of Minnesota, glen-rice, mateen-cleaves, and rumeal-robinson.
Wow.
Pretty good group, right?
Yes, sir. Brad Sellers from Ohio State and certainly from St. Joe's.
All right, so tell me how that team would stack up against the Bova second team.
Okay,
Let's
check
see what
those
we
out.
have here. Joe-Barry-Carroll. Now, this is as they were college players, not necessarily what they went on to do as pros.
Right, and some of them did not go on to pros. But in that 4 years that I had them, whether they be freshmen or seniors, they, in my case, they just stood out in my mind because I'd have these teams 6 or 7 to 8 times a year. And bring rises to the top.
They weren't leaving after 2 years or 3 years.
No, not at all.
All right, so Joe-Barry-Carroll and Michael-Finley, Jimmy Jackson of Ohio State, Michael Redd of Ohio State, and Scott-skiles of Michigan State. Now the all-Bova first team, let's take a look at that. Glenn Big Dog Robinson, calbert-cheaney of Indiana, Clark-Kellogg, Isiah-Thomas, and Magic Johnson. Every time I see Clark-Kellogg, people who watched and followed LeBron James and all, Clark was LeBron James before, and unfortunately had some knee problems and didn't get to do as much as he would have.
Right. First of all, Clark-Kellogg was always a real gentleman, and I always enjoyed being with Clark. But he was very passionate. From the time the ball went up to the time it ended, he just never stopped. He was one of my favorites.
He played for Eldon Miller at Ohio State, and that might have been a big mismatch for Clark.
Well, there are several coaches that have gone through there, and I remember Eldon being one of them. Eldon was kind of a laid-back type coach.
Very successful in the MAC.
Right.
But not so successful at Ohio State.
Right, exactly right.
216-575-0403. Explore your interests. Find a program that puts you on a path to a bright future. Tri-C offers more than 1,000 courses and over 150 career and technical programs. Go to tri-c.edu to find out more. We'll come back in a moment. We'll talk about some upcoming ways you can meet Phil and check out his book with some book signings. More Sports and Les Levine continues exclusively on cleveland.com.
As a kid growing up, my dream was to go to college, play baseball, and get a degree. Coming out of high school, I had two choices. I was accepted into a four-year university, but I decided to come to Tri-C after receiving a scholarship. I got my associate's degree at Tri-C. They transferred all my credits straight into Baldwin-Wallace, so I started at Baldwin-Wallace University as a junior. My name is Tyler Leonard, and I earned my first degree at Tri-C.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
It takes attention to detail. With your local Bryant dealer, you're getting more than just a technician. You're getting someone who pays attention to your needs and the little things that make a big difference. It takes a dealer you can rely on. And to keep your family warm this winter,
here, let me show you how this works.
It takes Bryant.
Bryant, whatever it takes.
And to keep your family comfortable, it takes Smiley One Heating and Cooling. Find them at smiley1.com.
This date in sports history, how would you like to referee for this guy? Wilt Chamberlain, 1967, sinks an NBA record 35 consecutive field goals. Probably all slam dunks, I would think.
And what's amazes me even more, less 100 points in one ball game.
And he was one of the worst foul shooters ever, and that night he was 28 for 32.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that. That's
unbelievable. Phil-Bova, longtime official, 44 years at all levels, throwing back the chair. Of course, it's the Bob Knight chair throwing incident. You couldn't be closer than that, right?
Very close.
Right
on
close.
Top of it. And we had a nice exchange of words, but always all in fun.
Am I correct that the way Bloomington was set up in those days, that the handicap section was there near underneath the scoreboard, that maybe it was on a trajectory
No,
to
it was
get there?
opposite the Indiana bench, on the floor, but back about 3 or 4 feet. Now,
Okay.
of course, they moved it up
Right.
Since that incident.
All right, now, if somebody wants to meet Phil-Bova, talk about the book, buy the book, how can they find you?
Well, we would like them, if they could, to right there email us at phil-bova307@gmail.com, or my author's email, nfrostino@aol.com. Let us know. We'd love to do any kind of book signings, do any kind of talks that we can. We've had so much fun already, meeting so many different people throughout Northeastern
Do it for
Ohio.
50 people, 500 people?
Exactly
you
right.
name it.
We have a couple of big ones coming up.
What did it feel like when you found out you got a report from the book people that you sold a book, or you sold 50 or 20?
I bought the first book. No.
That had to be a kick.
Well, exactly. When Nino brought the first book over to our house, my wife and I were just so taken back. My wife Donna and I were so taken back and Nino was extremely excited, because you don't ever think it's going to happen, and I'm just humbled by all the attention, positive attention that we're getting out throughout Northeastern Ohio. Because when you think about it, Les, here's what happens. The Super Bowl just concluded.
Right.
Everybody in the world wants to watch the Super Bowl. March Madness is the second on the list.
Yeah.
And I was blessed to be able to be an integral part of that March Madness. So in this book, there's some very, very funny stories, emotional things that took place.
In fact, the NCAA round 1 and 2 will be here at the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse.
Right.
And
we hope to be down there.
So tell me, now you did a lot of games there between the MAC tournament and...
I was fortunate to work the very first MAC tournament.
Okay, which will be there, and we'll tell you more about that as it gets closer. But you also name, I don't think we have it on screen, but you also name some of your favorite places, and they're to referee a game. And they're all different. For example, the Palestra to me is like the haven of college basketball, and nobody knows where it's in Philadelphia.
Just a small little court,
Yeah.
not a very big gymnasium, but great history.
And also, most of your games, I'm trying to think the Big Ten, are there any NBA arenas that a team uses on a regular basis? I don't think so.
Not when I was officiating, but I was proud to have worked the last game at St. John's Arena.
Before the Schottenstein.
And exactly, and they lost to Penn State in overtime, and they had all of the great athletes.
Jerry
John
Lucas,
Havlicek, God rest his soul, Jerry Lucas, all there at that venue. And then I worked the first game at the Schottenstein, threw the ball up for the first game at the Schottenstein. And I really enjoy the Schottenstein. Schottenstein is just outstanding basketball facility. And, of course, it would be like we have downtown Cleveland. You open it to many other different things.
You of course, Hinkle Fieldhouse you've done?
Oh, yeah. Hinkle was, again, a special. Butler University. They all, and this is what's so nice. Nino's done such a great job of going through the entire Big Ten, all the great coaches, all the great players, and the history of each university.
Right.
So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, so for Ohio, if you can, without referring to the book, Ohio State, he picked out a couple of the top coaches over the years, and you forget they've probably had more coaches than, well, they did have more coaches than I would have thought. Randy Ayers, I sort of forgot about.
Sure, Randy was in there.
Yeah.
Randy was, well, we had the Ohio State come to Cleveland State.
Right.
And Cleveland State defeated Ohio State. I believe Randy Ayers was the coach that year.
Right.
Yeah.
216-575-0403 is the number to call. Northeast Factory Direct, 3 great locations. You're going to save a lot of money. You wonder, with the weather as cold as it is, how about a hot tub? That doesn't sound like a thing you'd want to buy right now, but you're going to get the best price around and the best selection. You got 3 great locations. You see it at West 140th Street, Lakeland Boulevard, the old B&B Appliance Center. That's in Euclid, Freeway Drive in Macedonia, and of course, Northeast Factory Direct. Sokolowski's University Inn. I was joined today by the incredible Mr. Gullible and his friend Mr. Cynical. You guys, don't have me explain it. I don't have time. But they were there and they loved every minute of it, and so did I. I've been going there sort of like Lou Gehrig, the Iron Horse. I've been going there every week for, I don't know, 25 years.
And I think you had a little setback there that one time where you stepped down. That's another story. Great place to eat, though.
Absolutely.
I love that place.
Come on back in a moment. More Sports and Les Levine continues exclusively on cleveland.com.
Get Nature's Stone and never replace your basement flooring again. Your concrete is uneven, damp, and not healthy. Carpet and tile don't last, breed mold and mildew, and give worthless warranties. Nature's Stone permanently corrects uneven concrete and is not affected by dampness or moisture. And with Russell's Promise, our true unconditional warranty, there are no hidden maintenance costs. Act now and save up to 50% with our volume discount pricing. Must be installed by the end of February. Schedule your free cost estimate easily online today at naturestone.com. It's not just a floor, wow, it's Nature's Stone.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art Bet America kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions, or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
Let's take a look at this date in sports history, plus the week in review. 1964, Phil Argento and phil-bova combined for 67 points. West High defeats Cleveland South. This is before the three-point shot was in effect. Argento led the way with 66 as you and he combined for 67.
Oh, yeah, but you didn't put the rebounds up there either, did you?
Or assists. You said I had 30 assists. No wonder he scored so many points.
Yeah, he did.
All right, let's look at the week in review. February 17th, Les asked his geography teacher, how come Upper Sandusky is south of Sandusky? Historically, that becomes one of the earliest how come quickies of all time. Then we continue on the week in review. Les's doctor tells him to walk 5 miles a day after 10 days and 50 miles away from home. He calls his brother to get a ride back to the house. And Cleveland Magazine named its 99 most interesting people in 1999. It was suggested they should name the 99 most interesting people named Les. Best they could do, Phil, was come up with 7 of them. That was it. All right. Bob Knight, a big part of your life, whether you wanted it or not. You're going to get together with him fairly soon in the great state of Ohio.
Yes. I received a phone call last week, and we will be in Columbus at the Convention Center. At Midwest Sports Spectacular is the group that is putting the program on, and I was asked to come down and spend quality time with Coach Bob Knight, which is, I'm really excited about that, because about last week when I saw him on TV for the first time in many years, after 20 years at Indiana, it was great to see that he's up and around.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to that. We really are. And then we'll have our book signing down there on
what's
that
the date on
Sunday,
that?
March 8th at the
Columbus
Convention Center.
All right, we asked our listeners on Facebook, viewers on Facebook, who do you think is the best basketball coach since the Bird Magic era of college basketball? Glenn Berger says, I would say Coach K. He won the NCAA 5 times and has been to the Final Four 12 times. That's quite a track record. Larry Pantages says, I can't argue with Coach K at Duke, but could we stretch the time period just slightly to include your friend Al McGuire? Longevity is in everything. Ted Moon says, great question, gentlemen. In my opinion, it would be easy to say, but not spell Coach K, Roy Williams, or even Dean Smith. I'm a believer that Tom Izzo does the best job of the most overall, from his recruiting and to his style of play and his players. I also like Mark Few and Jay Wright.
Al McGuire, just an outstanding individual, and I just want to share this with you real quick. Again, I referred to the book. Al McGuire, he used to do our play-by-play, and that's when I had the honor of first meeting him, Les. And then, of course, after he retired from coaching, he did play-by-play, or he did his own ABC show, and he was kind enough to attend my referees camp twice and featured on national television.
That's great.
And it was just great.
What you saw on him on TV is what he was.
Exactly the way. It was just a class operation.
All right, if you can't catch us during the show that we do live from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time, you can leave a message on the voicemail of Truth and Reason, 216-200-6650. Leave a message and we'll get it back on the air as soon as we can. Let's take a break. We're coming back one more time with phil-bova. More Sports and Les Levine continues exclusively on cleveland.com.
Get Nature Stone and never replace your garage flooring again. Your concrete is cracked, uneven, and not safe. Paints and poly coatings don't last, are slippery, and give worthless warranties. Nature Stone permanently corrects cracked, uneven concrete, eliminates slipping hazards, and is easy to clean. And with Russell's Promise, our true unconditional warranty, there are no hidden maintenance costs. Act now and save up to 50% with our volume discount pricing. Must be installed by the end of February. Schedule your free cost estimate easily online today at naturestone.com. It's not just a floor. Wow, it's Nature Stone.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's Kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget. Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
You can follow More Sports and Les Levine on Facebook, facebook.com/more-sports-and-les-levine with new content posted each and every day. Let me run through some quick how come quickies, and then we'll talk to Phil here. Although Mike Hoover from Port Clinton is very disappointed in the veteran players on the Cavs for sulking, complaining, and pouting, Kevin Love is certainly not giving off good vibrations. Little musical reference. Mike Hoover also says, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, how reliable do you think 1 to 10 scales are? These people are strange people. God love them. How come the movie Dark Knight got it so wrong? Bobby threw the chair, not a bat, man. I didn't say they're funny. I'm just reading them. How come my grandpa, this is Big Ed. My grandpa said, I was married by a judge. I should have asked for a jury. Excellent. I got to get Mr. Gullible's in because he'll be mad at me if I don't.
Mr. Gullible.
I don't want Mr. Gullible mad. Mr. Gullible says, how come a horse that expresses negative views is a naysayer? How come I married Mrs. Wright, but I didn't know her first name was Always?
Oh, boy.
Okay, that's enough. Okay. All right. Your book can be, you can buy it at amazon.com. I think we have the address there, and also Phil's email. Can we get that? Maybe we can't. Yeah. Yeah, information on, all right, we'll bring it up in a moment. But here you go, phil-bova. 307 at gmail.com.
Right.
There you see Nino's address also. Right. Anything you left out that you'd like to mention?
No, just great to be with you again.
Great to be with you, and you mentioned me in your book, and I appreciate that very much.
And I meant every word of it.
All right, I appreciate it. Phil-Bova, it's an entertaining book if you're a basketball fan. It's behind-the-scenes basketball stuff called Throwing Back the Chair. And, of course, the highlight is the Bob Knight section, but there's much more to that book than just that. We'll see you. We're leaving a little bit early. I got a lucrative speaking engagement, Phil, I got to get to. Can't be later. It won't be so lucrative.
They're lucky to have you, buddy.
All right, Phil-Bova, one of the best referees of all time in NCAA basketball. Of all the shows I've ever done, this was the most recent.